Hi folks, this is Jay, hope you're okay. We're looking at chapter 3, Evidence of the Christian Religion by Dr. Alexander Archibald. And the title of the chapter is, If Christianity be rejected, there is no other religion which can be substituted in its place, at least no other which will at all answer the purpose of which religion is desirable. It has been proved in the former section that it is necessary to have some religion. We are already in possession of Christianity, which by confession of deists themselves answer many valuable purposes. Therefore, to consider well what we are likely to obtain by the exchange if we should relinquish it. If any man can show us a better religion, and founded on better evidences, we ought, in that event, to give up willingly. But if this cannot be done, then surely it is not reasonable to part with a certain good, without receiving equivalent in its place. This would be as if some person sailing on the ocean in a vessel which carried them prosperously should determine to abandon it without knowing that there was any other to receive them, merely because some of the passengers pretending to skill suggested that it was leaky and would sooner or later founder. Let the enemies of Christianity tell us plainly what their aim is, what they design to substitute in the place of the Bible. This, however, they are unable to perform, and yet they would have us to consent to give up our dearest hopes without knowing what we are to receive, or where we are to receive anything to compensate for the loss. This is a point of vital importance and demands a most serious attention. If it is really intended to substitute some other religion in the place of Christianity, we ought certainly, before we make the exchange, to have the opportunity to examining its claims, that we may know whether it will be likely to answer the purposes of which religion is wanted. To bring this subject fairly to view, let us take a survey of the world and inquire what it has to propose for our selection if we should renounce Christianity. The only three things in that event between which we must choose: the first, to adopt some of the existing, some of the exploded systems of paganism; the second, to accept the Quran instead of the Bible; and the third, to embrace natural religion or pure deism. Few men have had the effrontery to purpose a return to paganism. Well, actually, it's happening today. Yet even this has not been too extravagant for some whose names stand high as men of literature. The learned Gibbon has not, that I recollect, expressed his opinion on this subject explicitly, but it may be fairly inferred from many things in his history of the decline of the fall of the Roman Empire that he deeply regretted the subversion of the old pagan system, and that the progress of Christianity was far from affording him any pleasure. But although he makes it sufficiently manifest that could his wishes have governed past events, the old system would never have been disturbed, and Christianity never have had a footing, yet we can say whether he would have given his vote to have the temples rebuilt and the pagan rites restored. It is difficult to tell what he wished to accomplish by his opposition to Christianity, or whether he had any definite view other than to manifest his hatred to the gospel and its author. Taylor, the learned translator of Plato, openly avowed his predilection for the religion of the Athenian philosopher, and his wish that it might be revived, and speaks in contemptuous terms of Christianity in comparison with Platonism. But we never could have supposed that to be a suitable religion for the bulk of men, which had not the least influence upon them while the philosopher lived. This then would be no substitute for Christianity, for under its benign influence even the poor have the gospel preached unto them. But I have no doubt that, if the truth could be ascertained, we should find that this sublime genius derived from his best ideas, directly or indirectly from the Scripture, that he have lived under the light of the gospel, he never would have spoken of as his translator had done. In the time of the French Revolution, after some trial had been made of having no religion, de Umbermenil proposed a new religion in imitation of ancient Persians. His plan was to have the deity represented by a perpetual fire, offerings made to him of fruits, oil, salt, and libation poured out to the four elements. It was prescribed that worship should be celebrated daily in the temple, that every ninth day should be a Sabbath, and that on certain festival all ages should unite in dances. A few fanatics in Paris and elsewhere actually adopted the new religion, but they were unable to attract any notice, and Nahula time sunk into merited oblivion. It has been common enough to set up the Mohammedan religion in a sort of revival comparison with Christianity, but I do not know that any have gone so far as to prefer the Quran to the Bible, except those few miserable apostates who, after being long tossed about with every wind of doctrine, at length threw themselves into the arms of the Arabian impostor. How far this religion will bear a comparison with Christianity will be seen in the sequel. Deism and or natural religion is then the only hope of the world if the Christian religion be rejected. To this our attention shall now be turned. The English deist extolled natural religion to the skies as a system which contained that all man had need to know, and as being simple and intelligible to the meanest capacity. But strange to tell, scarcely any two of them are agreed as to what natural religion is, and the same discordance as existing among their successors. They are not agreed in even those points which are most essential in religion, and most necessarily to be settled before any religious worship be instituted. They differ on such points as these: whether there is any intrinsic difference between right and wrong, whether God pays any regard to the affairs of man, whether the soul is immortal, whether prayer is proper and useful, or whether any external rites of worship are necessary. So we finished there. This piece has relevance because our societies in Western culture have gone back to paganism, and just in the French Revolution, where they began to invent their own kind of religion, if you think that secularism is just going to get rid of Christianity and not turn religious in any way, you've got another thing coming, because secularism, advocated and pushed by hardcore atheism, will in the end develop into some kind of religiosity. There will be some kind of worship going on. Either it will be worship of the state, the worship of a cult leader in the nation, or something like that. So if atheism thinks it can get rid of religiosity or secularism, they've got another thing coming. They tried to do that in the French Revolution, and it didn't work. Alright, they tried to get rid of religion, Christianity, but they set up their own kind of quasi-religion. Alright, I think that it didn't happen in the American Revolution because many of the people involved in the American Revolution, some of them deists, were heavily influenced still by Christianity, and it took away the worser elements that happened in the French Revolution. Okay. Then there's the issue of Islam. Islam is not really a choice, because all it is just a hodgepodge of Old Testament and New Testament bits put together. So all you've got is deism. Deism has been muted in modern times. The philosopher Antony Flew was more of a deist, and Mr. Ripsion says he's kind of turned deist. So there might be more of a movement to deism in modern times. But like Dr. Alexander Archibald said, who says what is or what isn't in deism? It'll be a confused hodgepodge view of ideas. You want to know God, you need Christ, and if you trust Christ, you'll know God. It's as simple as that. Alright, thank you for listening, and please let me know what your thoughts are. Take care now, and God bless.